Claiming allergies as an excuse for pickiness isn't good. I wonder if it's because your parents didn't take proper allergy precautions when you were little, sneered my mother-in-law, glancing back and forth between me and Dad, mocking my sister. Then, as if suddenly remembering, she raised her voice in an exaggerated tone. She can't quite cook or clean well enough. Maybe she wasn't properly taught. She's pretty, but it's a shame about those things, she said, looking at my sister's husband for agreement. He too was smirking nastily. They can laugh now, but only for a moment. After angering us, the mother-in-law will lose everything. My name is Angelia. I'm 28, single, living alone, and actively working as an office employee. It's about time to consider marriage, but I'm enjoying work and don't have a specific partner, so I think it's still a way off. It was then I heard about my sister's marriage. My family consists of my self-employed local father, housewife mother, and my sister Eleanor, who is 3 years younger, a family of 4. Dad adored us sisters and let us do as we pleased. Mom always watched us and Dad with a smile, and I think we were a picture-perfect happy family. Eleanor, my younger sister, was adorable and charming, winning over everyone regardless of gender. There were times I felt it was unfair how cute she was, but her affectionate sis made me forget all that. Dad, the eldest of 5 brothers, mostly lived near his siblings, so we had a lively extended family. Mom got along well with aunts and uncles, so there were many family gatherings. At that time, Dad's youngest sister and aunt had a late pregnancy and gave birth to a girl. The family gathered to celebrate and meet the baby. Though Dad's sister, she was more like a sister to me, being only about 10 years older. I was happy for her and excited to meet the newborn, so I returned home after a long time. While chatting with my aunt and marveling at the miracle of life, upon seeing her tiny newborn, cheers erupted from where Eleanor was. Glancing over, I saw a slightly drunk Eleanor, her face flushed pink and steadily holding a glass of unfamiliar alcohol. That's what happens when you drink alcohol you're not used to, I thought. I should help my probably overzealous sister at the celebration. I stood up to go to her. Then my cousin Christina, noticing me, looked up in surprise and started talking excitedly. Angelia, is Eleanor getting married? I must have looked utterly foolish and surprised at that moment. I had heard she had a boyfriend who was a tall, handsome civil servant who would pick her up after work. But marriage. I looked back and forth between Christina and a tipsy, smiling Eleanor. I hadn't told Sis yet. Christina, looking surprised, seemed to sense my need for a proper explanation from Eleanor and quickly laughed. With Christina gone, I sat down in the chair next to Eleanor, still warm from her. I took the glass Eleanor was holding dearly and put it on the table, then held her cheeks in my hands, turning her face towards me. What does this mean? I'm sorry, Eleanor finally apologized, sensing my intimidating aura. Upon questioning, she revealed that she wanted to tell me directly and even asked our parents to keep it a secret. She planned to talk to me about it now that I was home. But before she found the right moment, she got drunk and ended up spilling it to Christina in her joy. Typical Eleanor, unable to keep a surprise, but somehow that was enduring too. As I listened, I stopped caring about being kept in the dark and went around telling everyone, including the part about it being a secret. The relatives all laughed, saying, "That's so Eleanor. There's one more thing I haven't told Sis." "More? I don't think there can be anything else." "Go ahead, tell me," I asked gently. Eleanor, relieved, began, "When I'm married, I'll have to move in with Jeffrey's parents next month." Jeffrey was Eleanor's boyfriend, now her husband. I was genuinely surprised by this sudden news. "Living with his parents? Are you sure it's okay?" Eleanor reassured me with a smile, saying she had met them several times and they were wonderful people. Eleanor's marriage announcement and the upcoming move meant she wouldn't be able to come back for a while. So that day, we all had a great time. I heard this story at the beginning of last month, so she must have moved by now. I was thinking of calling her soon when my mobile phone rang. It was just before midnight. Who could it be at this hour? I wondered, peering at the screen showing Eleanor. As I thought about the incredible timing and tapped the call button, Eleanor's voice came through. "Hello." I was surprised. Before her voice, I heard Eleanor sniffling, clearly crying. "Sis, sorry for calling you out of the blue." Her voice was a little shaky, as if she didn't want me to know she was crying. I could tell she was trying to sound upbeat despite being on the phone. "It's totally fine. What happened happened," I asked, trying to sound normal so as not to worry her. "Actually, I'm at the hospital right now." Eleanor's voice broke, and she started crying. "Hospital? Why? Is her husband with her?" I had many questions, but I decided to listen first. "I was rushed here. I'm sorry, but could you come pick me up?" I wondered why she asked me instead of her husband or in-laws, but I guess they couldn't. I asked for the hospital's name and told her I'd be right there. It was late at night, so I got to the hospital quicker than expected. Eleanor was sitting small in the hospital lobby. I rushed over to her. Up close, she looked much thinner than last month, and her face was pale and exhausted. I sat beside her and asked if she was okay. "I'm sorry for calling so late, but I'm feeling better now," she said. "That's good, but why were you rushed here?" She didn't seem to have any major injuries, so I asked what had happened. The next words from Eleanor made me doubt my ears. "I ate nuts," she blurted out. "What?" "Eleanor has a nut allergy. We've always been careful with her allergy, and nuts were never on our family's table." "Why did you eat them by mistake?" "No, Campbell. My mind went blank. I couldn't believe someone would knowingly give her nuts." I asked if she had told mother-in-law Campbell about her allergy, and Eleanor, with tears in her eyes, turned to me and said, "Of course I did, but she said that using allergies as an excuse for pickiness isn't right." Eleanor continued, saying that even when she looked at Jeffrey for help, he just said nuts are delicious and she should eat them. Feeling pressured and thinking a small amount might be okay, she ate them. Then her breathing got worse, and when she asked to go to the hospital, no one listened, so she called an ambulance herself. Campbell even accused her of faking her illness to make her look bad. "I didn't want to go back to that house, so I called you sis. I'm sorry." As Eleanor cried and apologized, I held her hand and assured her it was okay. My hand holding Eleanor's trembled with anger. "Let's go back to my place for now. Is that okay?" "Yeah, thank you, sis." So we decided to go back to my place in my car, and on the way, I suggested consulting Dad about everything tomorrow. Eleanor was worried about troubling our parents, but I convinced her that not saying anything would worry them more. The next day, after calling in sick to work, I left with Eleanor for our parents' house. Dad, surprised to see Eleanor, greeted us at the door. Sensing something was wrong from Eleanor's condition and my serious face, Dad quickly let us in. After telling Dad everything, he muttered a quiet acknowledgement, having listened silently. "Are you feeling better now? Stay home and rest today," he said. Eleanor nodded, and Dad gave her a comforting smile. Then, turning to me, he said he needed to talk. "Angelia, are you off work today?" "Yes, but why?" He wanted me to accompany him to get Eleanor's things, reasoning that there might be female-specific items she'd need. Of course, I agreed to go with Dad to Eleanor, who looked a bit worried. I said, "Don't worry, you look pale, so rest and eat Mom's cooking, okay?" Eleanor smiled weakly, understanding. While I was worried for her, I got into Dad's car, and we headed for Eleanor's in-laws' house. The car ride was mostly silent, but I could tell Dad was quietly angry. Arriving at the in-laws, we rang the doorbell, and Jeffrey came out, sister-in-law, and Marcus too. He seemed like the same smiling, good-natured young man I'd met once. I wondered if he really lacked understanding about allergies and couldn't protect Eleanor when needed. "Hello, about Eleanor. Eleanor hasn't come home. Do you know where she is, sister-in-law?" Jeffrey interrupted, as if inconvenienced by Eleanor's absence. biting back a retort about contacting us first if he was worried. I calmly replied, "Eleanor is at her parents' house now. After being rushed to the hospital, I picked her up and she stayed at my place." Jeffrey laughed out loud at my words. "Emergency transportation for nuts? That's an exaggeration. It wasn't serious enough to call an ambulance," Jeffrey said dismissively. I almost glared back in response, but Dad intervened. "Eleanor won't be coming back here for a while, so we like to take her things for now," Dad explained. Jeffrey seemed shocked at this. "Not coming back?" As Jeffrey began to confront Dad, a voice sounded from inside. "Jeffrey, what's all this commotion about?" It was Jeffrey's mother, Campbell, rushing in with loud footsteps. Campbell's face momentarily showed disgust at seeing me and Dad, but she quickly forced a smile. Well, Eleanor's dad and sis, isn't it?" Though I was taken aback by Campbell's initial reaction, we exchanged greetings. "Mom, Eleanor's upset about yesterday and says she's not coming back," Jeffrey complained in a whiny tone. I had a bad feeling and secretly started recording on my mobile phone, which was set to record mode in my pocket. "Yesterday's issue? You mean the nuts?" I said, barely containing my anger. Jeffrey butted in, "Well, about that. When I was little, I had a milk allergy, but Mom gradually introduced it to me, mixing it into food, and I overcame it." He boasted as if praising his mother. Campbell laughed along, agreeing, "Maybe Eleanor's nut allergy is because her parents didn't take proper precautions when she was small, right?" Campbell said with a sneering smile, looking between me and Dad. Then, as if remembering something, she raised her voice artificially. "Eleanor's cooking and cleaning were never great. Maybe she wasn't properly taught. Pretty face, but such a shame," she said to Jeffrey, who smirked. "Not coming back?" As Jeffrey began to confront Dad, a voice sounded from inside. "Jeffrey, what's all this commotion about?" It was Jeffrey's mother, Campbell, rushing in with loud footsteps. Campbell's face momentarily showed disgust at seeing me and Dad, but she quickly forced a smile. Well, Eleanor's dad and sis, isn't it?" Though I was taken aback by Campbell's initial reaction, we exchanged greetings. "Mom, Eleanor's upset about yesterday and says she's not coming back," Jeffrey complained in a whiny tone. I had a bad feeling and secretly started recording on my mobile phone, which was set to record mode in my pocket. "Yesterday's issue? You mean the nuts?" I said, barely containing my anger. Jeffrey butted in, "Well, about that. When I was little, I had a milk allergy, but Mom gradually introduced it to me, mixing it into food, and I overcame it." He boasted as if praising his mother. Campbell laughed along, agreeing, "Maybe Eleanor's nut allergy is because her parents didn't take proper precautions when she was small, right?" Campbell said with a sneering smile, looking between me and Dad. Then, as if remembering something, she raised her voice artificially. "Eleanor's cooking and cleaning were never great. Maybe she wasn't properly taught. Pretty face, but such a shame," she said to Jeffrey, who smirked nastily. Feeling like I would explode if I stayed any longer, I announced that we would take Eleanor's belongings and asked Jeffrey to show us where they were. "It's fine. Eleanor needs to overcome her allergy and learn housework," Campbell said casually before disappearing inside quickly. Gathering Eleanor's things, I left the in-laws' house as if escaping. On the drive back, I was filled with anger, but Dad seemed even more furious. Dad, who usually drives safely, was unusually aggressive on the road. When we got back home, Eleanor rushed to greet us. She immediately sensed something had happened and repeatedly asked if we were okay. "What are you planning to do now, Eleanor?" Dad inquired. Eleanor looked as if she remembered something, then looked down. "Honestly, they didn't seem concerned about you at all," I said. Eleanor looked up with a bitter smile and responded, "I guess I was hoping for too much, huh? It was never going to work out." "It was probably just as I had imagined," she said, tears in her eyes. Considering how Campbell spoke, it wasn't just this incident. Maybe there have been problems before. They threw away my food because it was too flavorful, and they spilled drinks on areas I just cleaned, she said. It was as awful as I had feared, almost too painful to hear. But I always thought we'd understand each other someday. Seeing Eleanor's tired smile made me realize how much she had endured. But after this, I realized we'll never understand each other. I think I want a divorce, she said, almost relieved. Dad nodded deeply, acknowledging her strength. You've done well so far. Leave the rest to me, he said. Eleanor and I were surprised and looked at Dad, who had a mischievous smile as if he had a plan. A few days later, Dad said we were going to pick up Eleanor's furniture, and we drove to her in-laws' house. Hey, won't we need more than 3 people to move the... Remaining outside were me, Eleanor, Dad, Campbell, and 2 others. This is a lawyer, and this young lady is Christina, a cousin of the 2, Dad explained. Campbell scrutinized Christina from head to toe and scoffed. She's just a child. Indeed, Christina was still a college student. While I wondered why Christina was here, she began to speak. I study law at the university. After hearing Uncle's story and Angelia's recording, I came because Campbell could potentially be a criminal, Christina spoke calmly. Indeed, she was smart in studying law. Forcing someone to eat something knowing they have an allergy carries criminal liability, Campbell left dismissively. You're just a student, not a professional. I can't take you seriously, she covered her mouth, trying to hide her smirking expression. Christina remained unfazed, continuing in the same tone. Expecting such a response, I invited a professional lawyer, not just an amateur. Campbell seemed to have forgotten about the lawyer's presence until then. Upon realizing, she finally looked at the lawyer. This case could involve compensation in the divorce proceedings, and of course, the divorce will go through, the lawyer said. Hearing this, Campbell's face turned increasingly pale. She rushed to Eleanor and grabbed her hand. Eleanor, you're not really planning to divorce, are you? I've been so worried about you since you fell ill. Let go of me. Eleanor interrupted Campbell's words and shook off her grip. It was unusual for the always smiling Eleanor to glare at Campbell. When I collapsed, not a single one of you cared, just eating away as if I wasn't even there. I will proceed with the divorce and claim compensation in court, Eleanor declared firmly. Just then, Jeffy's cry came from inside the house. Mom, all the furniture in the house is being stolen, Eleanor exclaimed in disbelief. Stolen? You're the one who brought all my furniture here without asking, claiming it was new. I bought that furniture with my own money. Campbell grabbed Jeffy's arm to stop him from retorting. Thanks to our relatives' efficient work, the furniture moving was already completed. Dad, after thanking them, turned to a pale-faced Campbell and Jeffrey. We've collected all the belongings, so we'll be in touch through the lawyer. As we turned to leave, Dad paused and looked back at Campbell. There have been cases where forced ingestion of allergens led to death. It's fortunate that didn't happen to Eleanor or Jeffrey when he was young. His smile was there, but his eyes were not. We all got into the car. At first, there was silence, but then Dad broke it with laughter. The looks on their faces were priceless. Seeing Dad's genuine smile, which I hadn't seen in a long time, Eleanor and I started laughing too. The 3 of us laughed all the way home. It was a moment of true laughter after a long time. Eleanor's divorce was officially finalized later. The in-laws' house was left empty after we removed Eleanor's furniture. They had sold their original furniture, expecting to use Eleanor's and squander the money from that sale. With no savings left, the in-laws' house quickly became known in the area for their harassment of Eleanor and moved away, almost fleeing. Campbell and Jeffrey reportedly work all day to pay off the compensation and cover moving and furniture costs. Eleanor's health is slowly improving, and she is staying with me until she finds a new place. Living with Eleanor again after years, I sometimes find it noisy but also comforting to return home to someone laughing together. Just like old times, I'm enjoying every day with Eleanor.